the slot info, and you want to add a return node and just drag off here, drop it in. Just go new slot info, or you could have left it slot info 1, doesn't matter. And you want to make this, and you want to basically connect everything up. Whoops. Like this. Now this one, you want to promote to a variable, and this is going to be slot type, like that, okay? And this is, it could be in your setup, okay? So set slot type, because what was happening is, it needed, when you were dragging from inventory to storage and moving in storage, it got confused because it didn't, because we're only going to use one widget for the item. It needed to know, well, which inventory system it is, because it's the same everywhere essentially. So you need to differentiate, you know what I meant, the slot type. So when it lands in the new, so when you drag it from the inventory to the storage, you need to tell it, right, you're now a storage slot, even though you're still in a widget item slot. Okay, so that's the extra function. Now you will also need to change this reference from an inventory reference. Now there's gonna be errors popping up, but don't worry, we're gonna do it one step at a time. This reference, you don't want it to be a widget inventory ref. You just want this to be a user widget. So this is going to be user widget reference. Okay. This will definitely give you a couple of errors, but don't worry. And probably change it, or just take the word inventory out. Widget reference. Now we've got some errors. That's fine. So let's go to our inventory setup. Has anything changed? Yes. So now when we set these empty slots, you also need to drag in your slot type. Okay, so when it generates the slots for the first time and they're empty, you need to know, well, what type of slot am I? Am I a storage? Am I an inventory? Am I a crafting? Am I a whatever? Okay, so that needs to go in there. And let's go to Widget Setup, which is right. So Widget Setup is not really a new function. It's just that inside a function. So you can either make it a function and then put it there, which we will do just so they're identical. Okay. Just go widget set. Oh, sorry, I hit the enter button. Set up, and if you go to your event graph, just copy this widget setup, paste it in here. Okay, and now you want to promote the class of this to a variable. Okay, and call that widget class. Hit compile. Okay, so open and close inventory. Nothing has changed in there. That is all the same. So the widget ref, that'll still run. That's changed. That'll be fine. Okay, so generate slots. We're not going to be doing it here anymore because we can't have the reference. This won't go in here, and you don't know what slots of which widget to do. So what we're going to do is use an interface. Now, don't worry if you haven't used them before. They're really straightforward, and I used to be scared of them too at one point, but it's super straightforward. Okay, so blueprint, come here, right click, blueprint interface, and just call this, let's see what I called it, just so it's the same. Blueprint inventory widget interface. So this is going to be called inventory widget interface. Okay, now open it up. You're going to have a new function, and you're going to have the update slots, and add another one, because we're going to have to do the same for the generate slots, because you're going to tell, so this is going to tell the widget itself, right, generate slots or update your slots, and you can't cast because you don't know which reference to cast to, because it's going to be dynamic, so you can't have a set cast node. All right, so you need a generate slots. Okay, so for the generate slots, you need one input, and this is going to be a item structure, and it is obviously an array, and this is going to be the array of slots. Hit enter. That's done. Now the update slots, new parameter, and I think this is the same. Yeah, and this is just called item info. It should be array of slots as well, to be honest, but doesn't matter. It's done now. So that's all that's it. That's all you need to do to make them. Now you can get rid of it. You never need to worry about it. Just leave it there. Forget about it. So in the inventory component, you now need to tell it, okay, there's an interface that you need to know about. So you go to class settings, come to interfaces. There's no interfaces. All we're going to do is add, scroll through, find the one you've just made, which is the inventory widget interface. Hit compile, save. That's all you need to do. It's now here. Now you have your two functions. So instead of generating slots like that, we are going to message. Right, well, you don't know who you're messaging yet, so we'll hold that off. Same for update all slots. We're not going to run this anymore because you've got to cast, or you've got to get to, and you've got to cast to the slot. And you won't be able to do this because this inventory is dynamic. So these two functions have to use an interface. So if you compile, so we've now got it's compiled graph. Okay, so this was the problem. So what we need to do is now get our, sorry, I had a phone call. We need to tell your widget. So I think the inventory widget has got the interface. Let me just check. So your widgets that you use is going to be the slot and the inventory. So we'll do the inventory first. Head over to graph. Let's go to class settings. And you want to add the same interface. Inventory widget interface. Hit compile, save. Now then, we are going in the event graph. Get rid of all these. Go to interfaces. On generate slots, right click. Click implement event. This will give you the interface on event on do. Okay, so we are now going to well, we're going to make a variable for slots, and then we'll basically do what we do anyway. Right, so we need to make a variable called slots, and this is of type widget item slot. Yes, so this is item Okay, I've obviously named it something different in this project. W underscore slot item. Fuck me. Inventory slot. Right. And this needs to be an array. So this is just going to save the slots. So on the update it knows what to update. Okay, it'll make sense in a second. So just clear it first. So there's nothing in it. Get your inventory slots and clear children. Okay, so you've got a fresh slate every time we generate. Now then, on our array of slots, we're going to do exactly as before. We're going to just get a for each loop. It's exactly the same. We've just moved the event. That's all we're doing here. We're going to probably copy and paste it. And like before, you are going to create the widget. Create the widget of the slot, item info, item index, and we want to add the child. Add child to wrap box. And connect this up. I'm getting lots of phone calls, I'm sorry. And then we need to add the slot to this array. Okay. I'm waiting to send. Yes, it's just a text. Okay, no sweat. So that is what we need to do for the generate slots. And the other one, implement event, is straightforward. We are just going to do a for each loop. And we want to get the index is this index. And in fact, what I've done Right, hello, sorry, we are back. I had some work calls that are dealt with now. So, on the event update slots, we're getting our slots that we are generating from over here. The index, because they'll be in sync with each other, because for every index you're adding at that index, okay? So they'll always be in sync. And what we are doing here is I'm sure we are just telling it to update. Let me get mine up. Yes, so before I've done this, because it's on event begin play, the storages haven't done anything until you've opened them. So you will get errors. So you need to put is a valid index and just put the first one. Now, if that is a valid index, okay, this event will run. If it's a valid index, you can then call update, which is a function, is it not, off of the actual slot. Yes, so just call update here to this array element if this is true. Okay, all good. Now then, so we need to call these events from our inventory component. So to update all slots, right, so drag your reference in, which has the interface, and then you can message, and then they've both come up there. So you are updating the slots. And the item info is the array of slots, which is probably badly named. Okay, now you can delete this. hit compile, go over to generate slot, grab your widget reference, and message generate slots like this, and array of slots is this one. Hit compile and save. Now they're all done. So you will need to just go back through all your events now. Don't think anything has changed in the main ones. So pick up. Yes, that's still running. That's nothing has changed there. Add a mount. For example, here, because you've added an extra you've added an extra variable to your structure, they will all need connecting up when it's being split. So anything along the lines of no, that'll stay the same, that'll be the same, this one. So when you add removing from a slot and then adding it back to the list, you actually need to put a branch in here. This will need to be connected up here because it's an empty one, and you need to know your slot ID. Now I think if I look on mine, which function are we on? Remove from slot. If you drag this, not this one, drag this over and put a branch of limited slots. Okay, if limited slots is true, you want to add. If limited slots is not true, you just want to continue to the update all slots. Alright, so you can see, put that underneath maybe, like that. Okay. See, yeah. Compile, save. Let's check here again. Make sure you've connected up this. Nothing else changed in there. No. That's all good. Where was we up to? I've got them all open. So this is remove item and spawn on ground. From slot, make sure you connect that up. That's all done. Split stack. Connect it up here. That the rest of that is good. Add it to array. That doesn't change. This one doesn't change. That does not change. No. That's all good. Set slot type. Obviously, that's the new one. And the widget is also the new one. So you can compile and save. So that is, you should be able to refresh. Compile. It's given us a note. Event update slot. No value be returned by reference parameter info item node. Event update slot. Well, that is not the case on here. Right, I'm not sure what's going on with that one. We'll play and then we'll see if we have a problem, and then I will solve it at the end, because that is exactly how I've set it up on the other project and it's working fine. So now then, the other kind of bigger changes is the let's come back out to our widgets, is in the slot. Now the slot has to do quite a lot of work now, especially on the events. So on mouse button down, I'm going to open up my slot here. On mouse button down, it's not major, but I think the best way to go about this is to just delete it, and we'll start it from scratch. So the first thing you want to do is get player controller cast to PC player. This can be pure because this isn't going to fail really. And you can get shift down, and I tell you what, just collapse that. Well, put a branch on it and then just collapse them, and then this is just get shift question mark. So branch. Right, if shift is true, you need to get your item info, break it, and you need to drop this down, switch on enum, hide the rest. Okay, so now we're going to do different things if you're in different slots. It's pretty straightforward though. So if shift is true, now I've used macros. Right, so item slot. Yep, so basically, now it did take a little bit of thinking, a little bit of working out, but if your item slot is in the player inventory, you split it in your player inventory. So you would just do a get controller or get player controller, and again cast to PC player, pure, sorry, I can't see because of my phone, and get your inventory component and then call split stack. Okay, and drag off your item info and your slot, drag in, and what I have done is convert that to a macro, bring him down and drag the execute from here into input, come back, player. Okay, oops, and then what you want to do is rename that to split stack for player in player inventory. Okay, now then, that's the easiest one. The storage, clothing, NPC, these are going to be different. What you're going to do in here is, well, you grab this, copy it, come out here, paste it, delete that inventory component and get second inventory component. Okay, and this has not been changed over yet. So what you want to do, hold the phone here because we want all these to be the same. So in your PC player, come over here, and this one where you're setting it is coming from the second inventory storage, right? You just want to, so your current looking at storage, yes, so this is going to be the inventory. This hasn't been changed because it's getting storage. So what you need to do is come over to your blueprints and come over to your storage, and you don't want to be using that one anymore. Just get rid of it. Compile, get the errors, yes, we understand, and you want to just get an inventory component, which is the same one you're using for the player, and just hit compile. And while we're in here, just delete that one, get the new one, set slots, or set amount of slots, drag that in for the construction script, hit compile, and there must be another one, begin play, call initiate, do you need to do anything? I don't think you need to do anything. To be honest, I don't think I've done anything on mine. Let's have a quick check. Master storage, event graph, nope, nothing. So that's done. So you can close out of that now. Now come back over to your player. This event's gone. So you need to get rid of that and drag off, get inventory component, and obviously get open inventory, change that reference, delete, and this reference, you can change that from an actor component, so you don't have to cast to it all the time now. You can just set that to an inventory component, change the variable, and then set it like so. Compile. Is there anything else we need to do? There might be a couple of bits. Let's see. Check for other storages. Let's see what I have done there. PC player, check for other storages. Okay, so you don't need to cast because it's all the same. So just say, is it valid? If the second inventory is valid, you can just drag straight off of there and connect. Well, you can't, but you will be. It is the same event. Open and close inventory, and then obviously set it to none, because once it's closed you want to get rid of it, because you'll never have more than two inventories open at once. If you do, you'll need a third variable. I can't imagine many times that will happen, so just add a reroute node here and call open and close inventory. And I think that is everything. So now if we go back to our inventory slot, we can now drag that straight into our split stack. Okay. And we are using the second inventory because we are in storage or elsewhere. So now I would collapse this to a macro, or at least plug that in, collapse it to a macro, call it split stack for second inventory, and now I think this goes into here, this goes into here, and this would go into here. And we are now getting a problem on detect drag. Well, we're not up to that yet. So let's see on my one. So that's done. Close probably won't. I haven't connected it, but well, I haven't done any of these. These are to follow, but you probably won't be able to split close. They'll be single items anyway. So something like that. And now if we copy and paste this one, double click, get rid of that, get rid of that, get Alt down, drag Alt down in, come out of there, if. So this one, rename this as well. This one is a little bit more to it. So give a bit more space, and you want to get player controller cast. I wish there was a hotkey for that. Impure. Get in get inventory component, get second inventory. Okay, I'll try and keep this neat and tidy. Okay, so first thing you want to do is valid. Okay, if it's not valid, there's nothing to alt click over to, so that's done. So that'll stop you from, when you've only got one inventory, from having problems. Now if it is valid, you want to do a switch. Can I not just grab this from up here? Thank you. If it is valid, you want to get from your inventory component, type in pickup item. So if it's in the inventory, if it's an inventory item, you want to come from your second inventory. Okay, so if it's, so let's just, run through this again. So if it's a player inventory slot, you want your other inventory to get it, and you want to remove it from your player inventory. Okay, so let's put an if in here, and you will then want the item in for the slot index. So let's move this up, and what I'm going to do, I'll put some reroutes in here so you can see which one's going where. Okay, now then, if it is a storage, you want your player inventory to receive it. So just copy and paste this, because it's now all under one component. So you want the player to pick it up or get it, and you will want the second inventory to remove it, like that. And you can also now pull clothes, crafting, and NPC and any others into the same two nodes, right? Because the only one is different is if it's in the inventory, you want to send it out. If it's not in the player, bring it in. Okay, and then remove it from wherever it is. So that will do all that for you. And then, of course, you need to detect drag if pressed, like before. Drag this up into here, there. We want left mouse button, thank you. Don't know how it does that, just spam it, it works. And this is coming down into here. Okay, this is now the on mouse button down. I do have on mine on right mouse button, that was for testing. We'll come back and add that in part 2 of the series. Okay, so drag and drop on drag detected. We have to change a few things in here. So this, on my drag and drop, you need to come here, and your second inventory component, change this to an inventory component, not the storage one. Compile and save. Now, where was we in here? Oh no, here. Okay, so now this cast node can go. You hit refresh on your node, and now you can just drag your second inventory straight in. Okay, so you now have your two inventories coming out of your player. And on drag detected, we have missed a step. You want to get your item slot or move that one over. I prefer it this way so it looks tidier, and get empty. So if it's an empty slot, do nothing, because you don't want to be dragging empty slots around. You can hide them. Lovely and tidy. Anything else need to change in here? No. That is it. Hit compile save. There is something not done yet. Right, so this is the inventory slot on drop. Well, we are not up to that yet. Oh, are we? Yes, so where was we? Here. So we finished this graph. We now need to go to on drop. Okay, so on drop is probably the biggest change yet. So what I'm going to do is just delete it all and start afresh again. So my drag and drop. So I have got the inventory, the first one, and get the inventory second, get the item info and the slot or index, item index, and I have promoted to local variable, so underscore local player, can't see where I'm typing, so player inventory con. Okay, promote to local variable here, local underscore second inventory con. That's just show for component. You can put reference, you can put whatever you want. Okay, promote to local variable, local underscore item, or put dragged item info. Promote that. Fuck off. And this one, promote to local variable, local underscore dragged. Make sure you put dragged as well so you know which one's which. Dragged slot index. And stick him up here. Okay, so we've got our variables. Just to keep it tidy, so you've got wires going everywhere if you don't do this. I know it's a bit of a fucking ball ache. Now then. So, off our dragged item slot, we want to break, and we want to switch on enum, hide that, come into here, move him out the way. Okay, so bit of space. Right, I have got first player. So is the dragged slot the same as the slot we are dropping it on? So come over here, break it, get this, do an equals enum, hide the rest, get the dragged, well, you don't, you can just leave it as player actually. So is, because we know this is a player, the drag slot is a player slot. Okay, so is that equal to the current dropped on slot? So we're dropping a player slot onto a player slot. So if that is the case, then we want to either add to existing or swap. So we need to do what we did before and get this item structure and this item structure, and we want the name, and like so. Now, are the names equal? If the names are equal, so come off the true. There is nothing for false, because if that's false, do nothing. Unless I might come back to there, I might have forgotten something, but I don't think I have. Now, if these are equal, we want to get our player, and we want to add to existing, or we want to swap item index. So if they're the same, add to each other. If they're false, swap. Okay, bring him up, hit the Q, bring him here, and that's pretty much in line. So now we just put in the information. Let's bring him here. So dragged slot, dragged item, in, current item, current slot. Same here, you can just grab and paste. In, and then there's that stupid return. In here, duplicate in here. That is that one done. So the next one, grab this. Is this equal to storage slot? As you can probably see where this is going, here equal here. If they're the same, do existing. If they're not, you will see in a second. I'll write it first and then we'll run through it one more time. Storage slot. Okay, so you want to add this branch here. So if it is equal, you want to, well, fucking copy and paste this. So much easier now, everything's off the same component. Drag in. The only thing that needs changing is this reference. So we don't want to change them or swap them in the player. We are in the second inventory. So change that reference. Everything else stays the same. You could probably drag that up. So this is up here. This one's for here. Okay, now if this is false, so we've dragged a storage slot onto something else. So this is technically a second inventory. So all we want to do now, if it's not equal to itself and it's a second inventory, we want to add it into our inventory because there's nothing else it could be. Okay, so we would then drag our player inventory, and we can then call just pick up item, and then of course if, and on our second inventory remove slot, and the slot to remove is obviously the dragged slot, and the item we're picking up is the dragged item info, and that shouldn't fail. Now for close, you should just be, what you might need to do is, depending on how these widgets are set up, I don't know yet, but in theory crafting would just run into there. But what you might need to do is you might need to do a check here. So this check is basically saying, is the dragged item type the same as the current item type? If they're the same, then you are moving stuff in its own inventory. If they're different, we're passing it to another. But that is it for now. So we are all good there. Now then, do we need to do, is there an on drop for the inventory? No. You will need an on drop. So what we'll do now is, if you can now delete that one. Storage slot, storage widget. Well, you don't need the storage slot. We'll keep the storage widget. Tell you what we'll do. Come to contents, widget, storage widget. Come over to the graph. Now on drop, this will all be different. So let's delete all that, compile it, save all, storage slot. Well, I tell you what, why don't we just, yes, this is what we'll do. We will delete, we'll delete all them. We'll just copy and paste our inventory so we don't have to write it twice. So if you come to your blueprints, you can get rid of that one. You can get rid of the storage slot, the storage widget. Keep the HUD. I thought we got rid of that reference, but obviously we haven't. So force delete now. And let's see. Oh, my back. Yes, it's warning us. Hopefully the engine doesn't crash here. What's the time on the video? Well over an hour. Oh. Okay, let everything load in. So everything's fine. So the HUD had a reference to it. So let's just see what that was. Right, it's crashed. I thought it would. Right, guys, just had to load my engine back up. It does crash. Unreal Engine hates it when you delete stuff. But I cannot leave that there. It has to go. I have to have everything clean out the browser. I cannot stand it. So what we check in HUD. You should be able to open that up now and it won't crash. So yes, this is reference to the second inventory, and of course it is the on drop. So we can delete the cast node and remove that, and we will come back to it. So it's just the on drops basically. That's all that's it's asking for. Storage asked you to be deleted. Storage slot, fuck off out of my life. Inventory. So I haven't come back to that yet, but we will do. So let's override on drop, which is here. So for my inventory on drop, this is what we are doing. Well, I haven't done that one. I've done it on my inventory too. Let's find it, which is here, on drop. Okay, so all we're doing in here is we are cast to my drag and drop, and we want index, we want item, we want inventory, the first and second, get second inventory component. Okay, so we just want to get, put it this way around so I am not confused. Right break here, slot type is equal, hide that. So what we are checking for is the slot type of the dragged item equal to the second inventory get slot type. Okay, so this is telling us if we're in the same widget. So if you hit a branch on there, if this is true, we are in the same widget, do nothing, because you'll end up duplicating an item, and you don't want to do that, because that's cheating. If we are not, then we are to pick up in our second from the dragged item structure, and then of course if, and of course remove from this one. Remove item from slot. And this is the drag slot, I'm assuming. Yes, so drag slot. Okay. And this is in my inventory widget 2. So this is set up for a storage widget. I'm assuming that would be the same, because it would be equal to itself. If it's not equal to itself, then add it. So this would work for all inventories. Return. True. Okay, compile, save. And is there any more on drops? Okay, the hood. Have I done an on drop for the hood? I would have thought I would have. It's basically you just remove it no matter what. Drag and drop, on drop. Yep, so just remove item. Can you go both in there? Done. Sweet. You probably want to go is valid. Because if it is valid, drag this one. If this is valid, hang on. This, okay. This is always going to be valid. So you can just run that again. I mean, that's not what I've got in my other one, but you might be able to just do that. I think. We'll do some tests. We'll try that. I think what I'm doing on mine is I'm moving it into the inventory and then dropping it. So we'll do some tests later on that. But I think that's everything. All good, I believe. So if we now go to our player, our player controller, sorry, that is, and we go to our inventory component, the slot type is for player. The inventory we want to use is this one, and if we want to give our storage, you can just duplicate inventory 1, or you could put storage, open that up. We will move him over here. So our storage box can be here. How many slots do we want? Rows of 5. Smaller. We could put it up the top. Something like that. So you'd see about 10 slots. We want the wrap to 600. Cool. Save, close, and then if you open up your master storage box, inventory, it's a storage slot, and the inventory I want you to use is this one. No, it is storage. Hit compile, save. You could probably put it there, to be honest. Hit play. Hopefully I've got everything right. Let's test one thing at a time. So we'll pick up. We still have our apples. Can we still split a stack? Can we still join it? Can we alt it? No. Can we? That was obviously, we're not supposed to alt it there. And we've hit E. We have got our inventory, but not our widgets. So we have forgetting to reference to HUD. Add child to vertical box. Someone is not got a reference. Item displayed being added to reference to HUD in the inventory component. So in the graph, we can inventory setup. It's not in there. Right, so you need to set your actual widget in here. So that's now done properly. And we need to double check the on interact. Did we finish this? I thought we did. Can open storage. Do that. Okay. So let's just double check our BP master storage. Inventory component. Right, so limited slots and give it 5. Hit play. Right, there we go. Grab an apple. So we can split some. Grab your watermelon. Grab a med kit. Right, so let's try and drag on the inventory. That drops. Can we move it? So it is not removing it. So I've missed a step. If I alt tab. No, if I alt tab on here. If I drag back. Yes, it is still thinking it's there. So what I'm going to do, I've clearly missed a couple, and this is for the display, so don't worry about that. Let's just double check, dismiss this, that I have not missed something in the on drop. So it's on drop, it is not happy. What I want to do is, if we go to content, widget, inventory slot, on mouse button down, I'm going to put my debug in. I would normally cut these bits out, but I want you to see in case you have problems yourself, because it was a bit of a change around. So mouse button down, off of here, go is mouse button down, and I want the right mouse button. If that is false, run into our normal graph. If it is true, I want you to get the item info, break it, hide all underconnected pins, give me the slot, and if it is true, just print string, the slot type, So now when I go into play, I can check that these are storage slots. These are player inventory slots. So far so good. If I drag onto here, so it is still a player slot. That's why we've got a problem, and I know exactly why. Because we haven't added the new event or the new function set slots. So if you jump out of here, go to your inventory component. Now on pickup item, drag this out and set slot type. Okay. And connect this like that. Okay. That is what you need to do. I just forgot to put that in. So pickup item. That's exactly the same as my one now. This is being set differently here. And now we should have everything working. So let's pick up an apple, 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 apple. Hit enter. Drag over. Right click. It is a storage slot. So if I hit shift, it'll split. And I have two storage slots. If I right click, drag on itself, no problem. If I drag it back, it reorganizes itself. Alt tab is doing it, but it's not updating the slots. So that might be something to do with that bastard event. So let's jump out of here. Sorry, my nose is getting tickly. Right, let's solve this quickly. So this is access none, trying to read the property HUD for display item being added. So we have got no reference to this HUD in the component. So why do we not? So in the event graph, inventory setup. Sorry, my nose is itchy. So display item being added. In here, display item being added. I am using the HUD to make a reference. Let's check the event graph. Inventory setup, not in there. Widget setup, not in there. I must be doing it in the PC player. I know I'm looking at my other screen. Give me a second. Yes, on the end of that. Right, so in your PC player, on the end of your begin play, you want to get your inventory component, set HUD. There will be a better way to do this to make it more dynamic, but for now, just pop that on the end, hit play. That should come up in the top right hand corner now. Yes, it is. Not getting an error, but it has not shown the correct item info. So let's see if we can fix that quickly for you. So the item info isn't being put into there. So on pickup item, add item, update all slots, display item being added. Let's check out what's going on in here. Icon and amount. Yes, that should be working fine. Okay, I will deal with that off camera, and I will tell you why that is doing that. But what I wanted to do was get you up to date using one component. That is a visual effect that I'm not worried about. Now if we drag, yes, no problem. Swap slots, drag it back, no sweat. Alt it. So on alt, so it seems to be on alt click or alt click. So the inventory component is still not got a reference to it. Access not to be there. Right, so what I've done, I've actually got an is valid to stop that error. So in the inventory component, just pull off of here and do an is valid, because I think sometimes when you're pulling out of other inventories, there is no reference to the HUD. So you need to do an is valid check on the HUD. That will then stop the errors. So this will fuck off. Thank you. Now, if we go to the item slot, I know this is a long video, but we're pushing on. Alt, Shift, item info in there, item info in there, and we are now good to go. I know we should be all done now. So yes, that's now showing up correctly in the top right hand corner. Alt click, shift click in here, shift click again, can't split a 1, that goes into there. It still auto stacks, can't duplicate. Can you drag it back? Ooh, I must have landed on the HUD there. So it's now just a drag, visual. No, sorry, I didn't drag it, it's auto stacked, didn't it? Yes, split, stack, split, drag off, drops the 3 apples or the 5 apples. Let's go in here. Under the HUD, can't do nothing. We can if you want. I think you're losing an apple every time. So all that'll be is I've probably put a decrement where I shouldn't have, and that'll be in your inventory component. Remove and spawn. Yeah, take that out. That's the correct way. And we are all done and up to date. If you want to drag out of the storage, leave a comment and I'll sort that out, because I have to end the video now because it's probably gone on way too long. On my timer says an hour and a half, but I did have some calls, so probably an hour long. Right, well, thank you for watching. What we'll do from now, so I'll give you a quick brief. This is the sort of end of the inventory system. We've got that set up. What I am going to do is, if you can all sort of copy. If you go to edit plugins and new plugin, create a blank one, call it inventory slots template or something. You can write your name in here. Matthew, description, this is inventory system. Won't let me, sorry, click on the content only, stick that in there, create plugin, click X, it'll give you this now. Now if you go to your content folder, select all your files, drag into here, make sure you press copy. Do not move your files here. Copy them here, because then you, like I nearly fucked up yesterday. So hit copy, let that happen. It'll generate a plugins folder in your project folder in the file explorer. I definitely said all them words wrong. So it'll generate a plugins folder in your file explorer in your project file. And then you can have that, and then you can move that from project to project. Alright, and you'll get all your widgets, everything like that. Now, if you want to make new widgets, you can do. Just make sure you've got a slots widget and an inventory slot to use. They are probably dynamic as well, so you can make any sort of inventory slot. You just need to make sure you're using the correct stuff when you set for the setup. Alright, so, well, thank you for watching. We'll end the video here, and we'll see you in part 2 for when we do some crafting of weapons, primitive to new, to do guns, pickaxes, whatever you fancy, and at that point we could get some NPCs in running around chasing us, and we'll do some killing and stuff like that. Right, so like the video, subscribe, and flick the bell please, so you know when the next video comes out, and I will see you in the next one. Drop.